Greetings to one and all. This is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct from Black Facts Headquarters Central this evening with another story of the life and glory of black people all over the planet Earth. And tonight we're going to be focusing once more on the story of Biddy Mason. The book is called With Open Hands, because that's how she greeted everyone, with an open hand, knowing that it was better to give than to receive. But if you wanted to receive, you were going to need open hands. Having your hands closed would mean you would miss your blessing too. So better to open your hand and give a blessing to someone else so you're open to receive one as well. And that's the story we're going to tell tonight. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and get it on. Y'all know what you need to do. If you haven't already, give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Then go ahead and spread the word far and wide all across the land that what we're doing here is reaching out a hand. Just like Biddy Mason, we got an open hand and we're reaching out to pull somebody along with us. Will it be you? Will it be you? Or maybe it might be you. Who knows? Only the shadow do. And you. Tonight we don't have a proverb so much as we have a what can I call it? A thought. So let's see what the thought for tonight is. And this is from India, from the area of Tamil Nadu. Some of you may have heard of Tamil Nadu. Some of you might have even been there before, maybe. But it goes like this. And this is an English translation, so mind you, it's a loose translation. O ruler of Ayodhya, of the inestimable form, I have the desire to listen to my heart's fill and my ears' delight. Your sweet speech that you and Sita spoke with true love and understanding, gazing at each other. When you played a game of Pallanguzhi with her and one which was heard by Bharata and Hanuman. Yes, that's right, Hanuman, the elephant that has arms and legs like a man and a face like an elephant. Hanuman. If you haven't seen Hanuman before, look up Hanuman and see what you find out. So, again, we're still talking about this game, and it's known in India as a game where the women oftentimes would play by themselves. So, a game of solitaire, so to speak, like my mother likes to play these days. A game of solitaire that you could play all day in a lonely house with no one there. You would still have this game to help keep you on the square. Instead of those kind of games that, Atlanta Housewives play or whoever. So that's what that poem is about. Again, as we've said before, they call this game, these Mancala games, the national games of Africa. And even though Africa is made up of many nations, but it's also played in countries all over the world. 108 countries in Africa and outside of Africa too. Almost as much outside of Africa as in Africa itself. So it is truly a universal game, but it is also the world's oldest board game, Mancala games. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and make a little transition here to our, right there. Oops, nope, not that one, this one. There we go. We're going to make a transition into our slideshow. And tonight, we are, again, featuring the story of Biddy Mason, a healer, a wheeler, and a dealer. She was all those things and then some. not just to one, but to many. So, chapter 2, leaving Mississippi. Leaving Mississippi. In the 1840s, Mormon missionaries came to Mississippi. Robert Smith liked what he heard of the new religion, and he and all his family became Mormons. Early in 1848, Smith, his wife's family, and 4 other white families in Mississippi decided to join other Mormons more than 2,000 miles away in what would soon be the new Utah Territory. There, they would be part of the Mormon City of the Saints by the Great Salt Lake. Their guide, John Brown, wanted the Mississippi group to meet early in the spring at Fulton, Mississippi. From Fulton, the 6 families would travel almost 1,000 miles to the Mormon winter quarters on the west side of the Mississippi River. At winter quarters, they would join a much larger wagon train to travel the remaining 1,000 miles to Utah. Biddy heard it might take more than half a year to get to Utah. She knew this wasn't going to be easy. Biddy was given a choice. She could stay in Mississippi as someone else's slave, or she could go with the Smiths. Well, golly, it's like bad to worse. Biddy chose to stay with the owners she knew. Her friend Hannah chose the same. Mr. Smith could have taken their children anyway, with or without Biddy and Hannah. Biddy began getting the Smith family ready. She and the other slaves loaded 3 covered wagons with boxes of clothes and dishes and barrels of salt, sugar, cornmeal, rice, lard, beans, bacon, and some raisins, iron cooking pots and tools. She hung the wooden butter churn on the end of a wagon, found a place for Mrs. Smith's spinning wheel, and then got 10-year-old Ellen helped carry the Smiths' bedding and blankets to the wagons. Even little Anne ran back and forth fetching boxes of matches and goose feather pillows. Goose feather pillows. Mr. Smith's wagons headed north the first week of cool, rainy March. Biddy walked behind, keeping the cows and the mules together. Morning and evening, she milked the Smiths' 7 cows. There'd be plenty of milk and butter, she knew, as long as the cows had grass and water every night. By March 9, all 6 families were in Fulton with their guide. Rainwater dripped from the rim of Mr. Brown's hat and off his bushy brown beard as he added Robert M. Smith's group to the list in his notebook. 9 white people, 10 black slaves, 2 yoke of oxen, 1 horse, 8 mules, 7 milk cows, 3 wagons. It was still raining when they left Fulton, early in the morning on March 10. Biddy's hairs and clothes were soaked, and her long skirt was covered with mud, squished under her bare feet as she tried to keep Mr. Smith's cows and mules together behind the wagons. Ellen and Anne walked beside her. The 3 of them carried long sticks that they used to poke the cows that tried to stop to snatch mouthfuls of grass. Biddy carried baby Harriet too, shifting her from arm to arm or tying the baby to her back. Biddy and her girls weren't the only ones walking. Most of the white women and their children, but not the frail Mrs. Smith, however. And all the slaves, they walked too. The white men sometimes rode horseback and sometimes walked, urging the oxen and mules on with their voices and their whips. Mr. Brown called the wagons to a stop at noontime. Nooning, he called it. It was a soggy nooning, though. Biddy didn't have to make a fire because since the noon meal was always breakfast leftovers. After she had helped the Smith family, Biddy sat with Hannah and their children on the wet grass. Biddy ate her cornbread, stretched her toes, and let her tired feet rest while the baby nursed. Now, mind you, see, she's talking about her feet here. Why is she talking about her feet? She's talking about her feet because she ain't got no shoes. None of them slaves, nor those slave children, had shoes. They had to walk the full length of the United States from Mississippi all the way to Utah, 2,000 miles barefoot. Now, if y'all want to know what that was like, it's real simple. Do your own little scientific experiment. Try walking around outside for a while in the backyard with no shoes on. See how that works. Don't tell anybody I told you to do that, though, okay? I didn't say that. I'm just saying. You could do it if you wanted to. They had gone 20 miles. Mr. Brown said by the time the wagons camped that evening beside Bull Mountain Stream, Ellen and Ann crawled under a wagon and lay side by side, as limp as rag dolls. Now, mind you, it's been raining all this time, so now Ellen and Ann, the two children, the 10-year-old and the 5-year-old, I think, crawled under a wagon and lay side by side on that wet, soggy, muddy ground. That was their bed. Biddy was so tired she could scarcely lift her feet in the sticky mud, but there was more work to do. She milked the cows, helped Mr. Smith get the animals tied up for the night, and helped Mrs. Smith feed her family. She got the Smith's bedding ready. She put a pot of beans and bacon in the hot ashes to cook overnight. She put a pot of beans and bacon in the hot ashes to cook overnight. So that's a Dutch oven she's using there. Then she fed Harriet and had another piece of cornbread and some milk from the pail. A handful of stars peeked around huge black clouds. More rain coming, Biddy thought as she stretched out under the wagon with her girls. So now all three of them are laying up under this wagon. A few stars still lingered when Mr. Brown hollered his wake up holler. Wonder what that was like. Biddy rolled out from under the wagon and carefully stood up. She was used to hard work and proud of how strong she was, but just then, every muscle in her body hurt. She ground the coffee beans and put the coffee on to boil. She milked the cows, poured the cream into the butter churn, and carried the milk pail to the Smith's wagon. Now, mind you, once you pour cream into a butter churn, you got to work it. You got to work it for all this work. So that's some more work. You know, this is heavy work right here we're talking about. And then carried the milk pail to the Smith's wagon. She and Hannah fried pork slices and cornmeal cakes, dished up the beans and served the men first. By the time the men had the teams hitched up, Biddy had the iron skillet clean, breakfast put away, fire out, everybody ready to go. And this was day after day after day for 6 months in a row. Right away there was trouble. Bull Mountain Stream was full of rushing water, and its bottom was pure sticky mud. Oh yeah, they were sucking up the mud. The heavy oak wheels of the first wagon got stuck in the boggy bottom of the stream. Water rushed under the wagon. It slapped against the bellies of the mules, but their feet might as well have been glued down. Biddy helped to lead 4 other mules into the stream and fasten them to the first team. She dragged the mules forward while the men pushed the wagon from behind. With a whooshing sound, the wheels pulled out of the mud and the wagon slowly rolled forward. By sundown, all 11 wagons were on the other side. Now, mind you, this was only a stream. This wasn't even a river. It rained all night long. Wind blew the rain under the canvas tops of the wagons and inside the slaves' tents. Biddy pushed her tent stakes into the mud and helped others whose tents were blown away. In the morning, the roads were as slippery as a greased possum. Now, if y'all ever had an encounter with a greased possum, you know just how slippery that is. If not, you're just going to have to imagine. The oxen and mules pulling the wagon slipped. The cows and mules behind the wagon slipped. Biddy slipped, but they all got up again, coated with mud, and kept walking. By the time they reached Lexington, Tennessee, 12 days later, Biddy had walked over 100 miles. Her bare feet were tough, her legs were strong, and she was used to carrying Harriet while she drove the cows along. Biddy felt just fine. The oxen didn't feel fine, though. They often fell to their knees on those slippery roads. Stony roads cut their feet, and muddy roads dragged on the wagon wheels. The oxen were exhausted, the mules didn't feel much better, and the journey had just really begun. But every morning, Mr. Brown gave his holler as soon as it was light enough to see his hand in front of his nose, and the wagons lurched forward. Day after day after day after day, Biddy sloshed through churned up mud behind all the wagons and all the cows and mules she was driving. When they came to a river, she sent her animals in and plunged in after them. Biddy couldn't remember when she had last worn dry clothes. It seemed as though she was either walking through pouring rain or swimming across the river. Either way, she was as wet as a catfish and twice as wrinkled. On April 1st, Biddy stood on the Kentucky side of the wide, ice-edged Ohio River. April 1st now. The river still got ice on the edges. 2 miles wide and rising, Mr. Brown said. The rain poured down and the icy water rose higher and wider as Biddy tried to see the other side. She shivered and pulled her shawl tighter, her breath making little white clouds. They had to cross the river, but the ferry boat wasn't working. Everyone and everything was wet and cold. Children whined and cried. Grown-ups shivered and worried. Finally, Mr. Smith and others galloped off in the rain to find a boat. 4 miserable days later, Biddy heard shouting in the distance. Horses and mules whinnied as the men raced into camp, their wet saddles creaking. They had found a boat that would carry them from the Ohio River all the way up the Mississippi River to St. Louis, Missouri. Hallelujah. Children stopped fussing and whooped with joy. Adults stopped worrying and gave thanks. Biddy sighed with relief. It was, she thought, more tiring to care for a sick woman and a wagon full of wet, whiny children than to walk 20 miles. The next morning, Biddy helped load wagons, mules, oxen, and cows onto the boat. It was raining, as usual, and they were as wet as if they were in the river. Mr. Brown counted the people in his group, as usual, and wrote in his journal, 30 whites, the Mormons, and 24 colored, the slaves. And that just gives you an idea of what was what around there when you got that many slaves for that few people. But you have to, what they didn't calculate in here is all the critters that had to be taken care of as well. Although from all appearances, it appeared as though Biddy was doing most of the caring. I didn't hear about anybody else really doing a whole lot of caring for those animals. I don't know what the rest of them slaves were doing. Not at all. But at any rate, we will return to this story tomorrow. Apparently, we'll be reading this story for the rest of the week on into the weekend of the 1st and the 2nd of October. Well, let's see. The 1st is on Friday. 1st must be on Friday. 2nd is on Saturday. So, yeah, well, it's probably going to take us, it's going to take us more than just one more day. I'm going to try and get through as much as that book as possible. At least we'll, get her from Mississippi to California. If we can get her there, we'll be doing good. And then you can always pick up the book later and read it for yourselves. In the meantime, we know everything is fine. We hope everything is going for you just as fine as wine in the summertime. And in the meantime, we like to go ahead and say to all you little children out there, take your little head and put it on your little pillow, on your little bed. Close those eyes and wait on that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, you'll know that it's time for for you to rise and shine, oh children of mine. And in the meantime, all you adults out there, we got something for you to do as well. We're not going to leave you out of this picture. Not at all. We want you to go ahead and give us a like if you're watching on Facebook. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching on the tube. And then last but not least, but something that will make me happy as a whole field full of meats, go ahead and subscribe to the Tubular Black Facts channel. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Peace out, y'all. We'll be black tomorrow. We'll try to be black at noon. We missed you today at noon because we had a pressing engagement with a bed after staying up all night working on the project, our weekend project. We got homecoming here at Kent State this weekend. If y'all gonna be in the neighborhood, look for us. We will be there in the parking lot at the tailgate party. That's right. We're gonna come out the house. We haven't been out with our goods in 2 years. So we're going to be out there. So come out, look for us, hook up with us. It's going to be a cash only day. We ain't taking no cash apps. We ain't taking no whack apps. We're not taking no Apple Pay. We want y'all to bring some of that dirty money y'all been hiding under your bed. Bring it on out and put it on the wood, because money on the wood makes the betting go good. Peace out, y'all. And good night to Red and Muhammad. And who else is out there? I see Solomon Israel out there. Anybody else out there? There it goes. Wait a minute. I keep missing Vaughn. Vaughn was over there. I saw you, Vaughn. Where you at? There goes Vaughn. And Vaughn. Peace. We will see y'all in the noontime. A divine hour.